What's the moment you lost all respect for a teacher? I was 13 when I thought my teacher was the coolest person in the world. I was sitting at my desk, patiently waiting to leave for the day, when Mrs. Whitaker looked at the class and announced, "I'd literally rather clean my entire house than grade these essays." A few kids laughed, but everyone else just stared at the clock above the whiteboard. It was Friday afternoon. School ended in 25 minutes. Mrs. Whitaker picked up a piece of scratch paper and crumpled it into a ball. Anyone here think they're good at basketball? My hand shoots up immediately. So do Theo's and Eliza's and Desmond's. Half the class raises their hands. Interesting. Mrs. Whitaker bounces the paper ball in her palm, testing its weight. Here's what we're going to do. She points toward the trash can sitting in the corner by the window, maybe 8 feet away. I'm going to attempt this shot. If I make it, no homework this weekend for anyone. The entire class perks up. Even Colette, who sits in the front row and never speaks, turns around with sudden interest. But if I miss this shot, Mrs. Whitaker grins wickedly, everyone gets double homework. That's completely unfair, Theo protests from the back row. What if you suck at shooting? Then I guess you're all completely screwed. She lines up her shot like she's about to launch a three-pointer. Unless someone thinks they can do better than me. My hand flies up again before I can stop myself. I can make that shot. Oh, really, Michael? Mrs. Whitaker raises an eyebrow. You want to take responsibility for everyone's entire weekend? The pressure hits me as 25 pairs of eyes turn in my direction. Eliza gives me an encouraging nod from her seat. Even Desmond, who usually couldn't care less about anything school-related, leans forward with interest. Do it, Mike, Theo whispers loud enough for everyone to hear. You made that crazy shot in gym class yesterday. Mrs. Whitaker tosses me the paper ball. It feels lighter than I expected. All right, Michael, same exact deal. You make this shot, nobody gets homework. You miss, everyone gets double. She's actually smiling at me like she wants me to succeed. Like we're all in this together instead of her trying to torture us with 5-paragraph essays about symbolism. No pressure or anything, Eliza calls out, making the whole class laugh. I stand up and move away from my desk to get a better angle. The trash can sits there like a target, challenging me. Take your time, Mrs. Whitaker says. I really don't want to spend my Saturday night grading papers about metaphors. This is exactly why she's different from every other teacher in this school. Mr. Rodriguez would never admit he doesn't want to grade homework. Ms. Santos acts like teaching is some kind of sacred calling, but Mrs. Whitaker treats us like we're all stuck in the same boring situation together. You totally got this, Theo says under his breath. I roll the paper ball between my palms, getting a feel for it. Everyone's watching, but nobody's making jokes or trying to distract me. They all want the same thing I want. Whenever you're ready, Mrs. Whitaker says. She leans against her desk with her arms crossed, but she's not rushing me or making me nervous. I take a deep breath and bend my knees slightly. Line up the shot exactly like Coach Sorrell taught us in basketball. Funny that the principal and the basketball coach have the same last name. The room goes completely silent except for the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. I focus on the center of the trash can. Imagine the perfect arc, the exact amount of force I need. Everyone holds their breath as I pull my arm back. I flick my wrist forward and release the ball in one smooth motion. The paper ball soars through the air in perfect slow motion. Good rotation, perfect trajectory. It's going to be close. The entire class watches it arc toward the target. Someone makes a tiny gasping sound. At the exact moment the ball drops through the center of the trash can with a soft thud, the classroom door swings wide open. Principal Sorrell steps inside wearing his usual stern expression and dark blue tie. The celebration dies before it even starts. Eliza's yes gets cut off mid-syllable. Theo's victory fist pump freezes halfway to the ceiling. Desmond's smile vanishes instantly. Mrs. Whitaker's triumphant grin disappears like someone flipped a switch. 26 kids suddenly find their desks extremely interesting. The excited energy in the room plummets from celebration to terror in half a second. Principal Sorrell's cold eyes sweep across the classroom, taking in every detail. His gaze lands on me, still standing beside my desk with my throwing arm extended from the shot. The paper ball sits in the bottom of the trash can like evidence of some terrible crime. Nobody moves, nobody breathes, nobody even shifts in their seats. The silence stretches so long I can hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Principal Sorrell's expression doesn't change, but his eyes narrow slightly as he processes what he just walked into. A student standing, a teacher looking guilty, 26 kids frozen in place. What's going on here? His voice cuts through the silence like a knife. I look directly at Mrs. Whitaker, waiting for her to explain everything, to tell him about the homework bet and how she started the whole thing, to admit that it was just a fun way to end the week. She opens her mouth, closes it, opens it again like a fish gasping for air. This is it. She's going to come clean about the deal. She'll explain that I made an amazing shot and earned everyone a homework-free weekend fair and square. The seconds tick by like hours while everyone waits. What's going on here? Principal Sorrell repeats, his voice sharper and more demanding. Mrs. Whitaker straightens up behind her desk. 26 kids hold their breath, waiting for her to tell the truth about the bet. The silence stretches until it becomes unbearable. Everyone expects her to explain how she proposed the whole thing, how she offered the no homework deal if I could make the shot. Instead, she points directly at me with her finger. Michael's been disruptive all afternoon. The words hit me like a physical punch to the gut. My mouth falls open in shock. What did she just say? I was asking him to throw away his trash and return to his seat. The betrayal crashes over me in waves. Around the classroom, my classmates' faces mirror my complete disbelief. Eliza's eyes go wide with horror. Theo's mouth hangs open. Even quiet Colette looks stunned. She's lying. She's actually lying to save herself. Principal Sorrell nods like this explanation makes perfect sense. Is that so, Mrs. Whitaker? Yes, she says, her voice growing steadier with each word. He's been throwing things around and disrupting the lesson all period. I stare at her in complete shock. 30 seconds ago, she was celebrating with us. Now she's rewriting history to protect herself from getting in trouble. The woman I thought was the coolest teacher in school just threw me under the bus without hesitation. Michael! Principal Sorrell's stern voice makes me jump. Step into the hallway immediately! My legs feel disconnected from my body as I walk toward the door. Behind me, I hear Mrs. Whitaker already moving on like nothing happened. Now, class, let's return to our discussion of Chapter 12, she says in her normal teaching voice. The door clicks shut behind me, sealing me off from the 25 witnesses who just saw the truth. Principal Sorrell crosses his his arms and studies me like I'm some kind of specimen under a microscope. Want to tell me what really happened in there? We made a bet, I start, my voice cracking with emotion. Mrs. Whitaker said if I could make the shot into the trash can, nobody would get homework this weekend. He shakes his head before I even finish explaining. Michael, I've been doing this job for 15 years. Teachers don't make bets with students about homework assignments. But she did. Ask anyone in that classroom. They all saw it. Mrs. Whitaker is a respected educator with an impeccable record. She told me you were being disruptive and throwing things. The word respected hangs between us like an impossible wall I'll never be able to climb over. I'm telling the truth about what happened. Son, when a teacher's word conflicts with a student's word, I know exactly who I'm going to believe. His tone makes it clear this conversation is already over in his mind. He's decided I'm lying before I even had a chance to defend myself. She started the whole thing. She offered the bet to the entire class. That's a very serious accusation you're making against a faculty member. The way he says accusation makes it sound like I'm the one doing something wrong. Like telling the truth is somehow an attack on Mrs. Whitaker. It's not an accusation, it's what actually happened. Principal Sorrell pulls out a small notepad from his shirt pocket and starts writing. I'm going to need to call your mother about this incident. Good, call her. She'll believe me. We'll see about that. He finishes writing and looks back up at me. Mrs. Whitaker says this isn't the first time you've been disruptive in her class. That's news to me. I've never been in trouble in her class before today. Never been in trouble anywhere before today. She's lying about that too. Michael, I strongly suggest you stop digging yourself into a deeper hole. The unfairness of it all crashes down on me. I won the bet fair and square. I made the shot that everyone wanted me to make. And now I'm being punished for it because Mrs. Whitaker chose to lie instead of admitting the truth. I want to go back in there and have her tell you the real story. That's not going to happen. You're coming to my office right now. As we walk down the empty hallway, I can hear Mrs. Whitaker's voice continuing the lesson through the closed classroom door. Like nothing happened. Like she didn't just destroy my credibility to save herself from a harmless bet she created. Principal Sorrell's office feels like a courtroom where the verdict was decided before I walked in. He settles behind his desk and opens a thick file folder. Let's review your record, Michael. The system suddenly makes perfect sense. It doesn't matter what really happened. It only matters who has more authority. Mrs. Whitaker is a teacher. I'm just a student. Case closed. I've been looking through your file while we walk down here. Principal Sorrell flips through several pages like he's building a criminal case against me. Each paper he examines makes his frown deeper. Says here you were late to first period 3 times this month. The bus was late those days. I can't control traffic. And last week you forgot your textbook in Mr. Rodriguez's class. I stare at him in disbelief. I brought it the next day. That's not being disruptive. There's also a note here about talking during a quiz in Mrs. Santos's room. I asked Theo for a pencil because mine broke. She said it was fine. Principal Sorrell keeps flipping pages like he's searching for more ammunition. This paints a picture of a student who doesn't follow rules consistently. The realization hits me like cold water. He's rewriting my entire school experience to fit his narrative. 3 tardy slips and a broken pencil suddenly make me a chronic troublemaker. Those things have nothing to do with what happened today. They show a pattern, Michael. A pattern of disrespect for classroom environment. Pattern. The word makes my skin crawl. He's taking normal kid stuff and turning it into evidence that I'm some kind of problem student. Mrs. Whitaker lied to you about the bet. Or you're lying to me about Mrs. Whitaker. The way he says it makes it clear which option he believes. Teacher versus student. Adult versus kid. Authority versus nobody. Why would I make up something like that to avoid getting in trouble for disrupting class? His logic is completely backwards, but it doesn't matter. He's already decided I'm guilty of something, so every word out of my mouth just proves it more. The punishment for this incident is a 3-day suspension. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. Suspension. For winning a bet that my teacher created. 3 days? Yes, today, Monday, and Tuesday. You can return Wednesday morning. I can't process what's happening. I made a perfect shot that everyone wanted me to make. Mrs. Whitaker offered the deal herself, and now I'm being kicked out of school for it. This is completely unfair. What's unfair is disrupting your classmate's learning environment. He's not even talking about the same event anymore. In his version, I'm some troublemaker who threw things around the classroom for no reason. The bet never happened. Mrs. Whitaker never offered anything. Can I at least go get my backpack? I'll have someone bring it to you. Even that small dignity gets taken away. I can't face my classmates. Can't explain what really happened. Can't prove that Mrs. Whitaker started everything. Principal Sorrell picks up his phone and dials. Mrs. Whitaker, could you send Michael's backpack down to the office? Thank you. While we wait, I can hear the muffled sounds of normal school continuing around us. Class is changing, lockers slamming, kids laughing in the hallways. Life goes on like nothing happened. Like I didn't just get railroaded by the system. A student aide knocks and brings my backpack. I recognize him from lunch, but he won't make eye contact. Word travels fast in middle school. Your mother should be here shortly to pick you up. The final humiliation, getting picked up by my mom like some kind of criminal. Through Principal Sorrell's office window, I can see directly into Mrs. Whitaker's classroom. She's standing at the whiteboard, teaching grammar like it's any other Friday afternoon. 25 kids sit in their seats, pretending to pay attention to her lesson about sentence structure. The same kids who watched her lie to save herself 5 minutes ago. Eliza catches my eye through the window and mouths, "I'm sorry." Theo shakes his head in disgust. But they can't help me. They're just kids too. Their word means nothing against a teacher's authority. Mrs. Whitaker writes something on the board and turns back to face the class. For just a second, her eyes meet mine through the window. She doesn't look guilty. She doesn't look sorry. She looks like a teacher doing her job, completely unbothered by the student she just destroyed. Then she turns back to the lesson like I don't exist. Mom arrives 20 minutes later looking confused and worried. Principal Sorrell immediately launches into his version of events before she can even sit down. "Mrs. Hamilton, we had an incident with Michael this afternoon involving disruptive behavior in Mrs. Whitaker's classroom." I watch Mom's face change as he talks. She came in ready to defend me, but doubt starts creeping into her expression. According to Mrs. Whitaker, Michael was throwing objects around the room and disrupting the lesson. "That's not what happened," I interrupt. Principal Sorrell holds up his hand to silence me. Michael claims they made some kind of bet about homework, but Mrs. Whitaker assures me that's not the case. The way he presents it makes my version sound ridiculous, like I invented an elaborate story to cover up bad behavior. "A bet?" Mom looks at me with confusion. "She offered no homework if I could make a shot shot into the trash can. The whole class heard it. Michael, Principal Sorrell's voice takes on a patient tone, like he's dealing with a child having a tantrum. Teachers don't make bets about homework with students. But she did. Ask anyone who was there. Mom looks back and forth between us, trying to figure out who to believe. I can see the uncertainty growing in her eyes. Mrs. Whitaker has been teaching here for 8 years, Principal Sorrell continues. She has an excellent reputation and has never had issues like this before. He's building his case methodically. Experienced teacher versus problem student. Reliable adult versus kid making excuses. Michael's had some minor infractions this semester. Nothing serious, but it shows a pattern. There's that word again. Pattern. Like being late because of bus problems makes me a habitual liar. What kind of infractions, Mom asks. Tardiness, forgetting materials, talking during quiet work time. Mom turns to me with disappointment starting to show. Michael, is that true? Those things aren't related to today at all. They show disrespect for classroom rules, Principal Sorrell says smoothly. I watch my own mother start to believe his version over mine. The doubt in her eyes grows stronger with each word he speaks. I understand this is difficult, he continues, but Michael needs to learn there are consequences for disruptive behavior. What consequences are we talking about? Mom asks. 3-day suspension starting today. Mom's face falls. Suspension sounds serious, like something only bad kids get. Michael, tell me honestly what happened. I am telling you honestly. Mrs. Whitaker made a bet with the class. If I could throw a paper ball into the trash can, nobody would get homework this weekend. I made the shot right when Principal Sorrell walked in. Then she lied and said I was being disruptive. The story sounds crazy even to me when I say it out loud. What teacher would really make a deal like that? Mrs. Whitaker categorically denies making any such arrangement, Principal Sorrell says. Categorically denies. The formal language makes my version sound even more childish and made up. She's lying to protect herself. Michael, that's enough, Mom says sharply. You're accusing your teacher of lying, because she is lying. Principal Sorrell slides a suspension form across his desk toward Mom. I need a parent signature to make this official. Mom stares at the paper like it might bite her. I don't understand how we got here. Sometimes good kids make poor choices, Principal Sorrell says in an understanding voice. The important thing is learning from mistakes. Poor choices. Mistakes. He's reframing the entire situation to make it sound like I did something wrong and just need to accept responsibility. Mom, please don't sign that. Call some of the other parents. Ask their kids what really happened. Michael, enough with the conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories. Even my own mother is starting to dismiss my account as fantasy. Mrs. Whitaker is a respected member of our faculty, Principal Sorrell adds. I've never known her to be anything but honest and professional. Mom picks up the pen with obvious reluctance. I still don't fully understand what happened here. Your son disrupted class and is now making up stories to avoid taking responsibility. The pen hovers over the signature line. Mom looks at me one more time, searching my face for something. Michael, if you tell me right now that you're sorry and this won't happen again, maybe we can work something out. She's giving me a chance to confess to something I didn't do, to admit guilt and make this easier for everyone. I won't apologize for telling the truth. Mom's shoulders slump in defeat. She signs the paper with heavy strokes. He can return to school Wednesday morning, Principal Sorrell says, filing the form away. As we walk to the car, I realize what just happened. The official record now shows that I was suspended for disruptive behavior. Mrs. Whitaker's lie has become the truth. The system has rewritten me from a good student into a troublemaker, from an honest kid into someone who makes up elaborate stories. And there's nothing I can do to change it. The car ride home passes in complete silence. Mom grips the steering wheel like she's trying to strangle it. I stare out the window at normal Friday afternoon life happening around us. Kids walking home from school, parents picking up groceries, everyone going about their business while my world falls apart. I want to hear the whole story again, Mom says as soon as we walk through the front door. Every single detail from the beginning. I tell her everything. The Friday afternoon energy in the classroom. Mrs. Whitaker complaining about grading homework. Her crumpling up the paper and offering the bet. The whole class getting excited. My perfect shot landing right as Principal Sorrell walked in. You're absolutely certain she offered this bet? Mom, 25 other kids heard the exact same thing I did. Something shifts in her expression. The doubt starts fading, replaced by determination. Give me your class roster. She pulls out her phone and starts dialing. The first call goes to Theo's mom. Hi, this is Michael's mother. I'm calling about something that happened in Mrs. Whitaker's class today. I can only hear Mom's side of the conversation, but her face grows more serious with each response. Theo told you the same thing, a bet about homework, and he saw Mrs. Whitaker lie to the principal? She hangs up and immediately dials Eliza's house. Mrs. Ortega, this is Michael Hamilton's mom. I need to ask about what your daughter witnessed in English class today. Another confirmation. Eliza told her parents the exact same story I told mine. Mom makes 6 more calls. Desmond's dad, Colette's mom, even quiet Tyler's parents. Every single story matches mine perfectly. Mrs. Whitaker offered the bet. I made the shot. She lied when Principal Sorrell walked in. This is unbelievable, Mom mutters after the 8th call. 8 different kids all telling the same story, because it's the truth. I know it is. Her voice has gone from confused to angry. That principal made me feel like you were some kind of chronic liar. She starts typing furiously on her laptop. I'm getting written statements from every parent I just called. The emails come in throughout the weekend. Parent after parent sends detailed accounts of what their children witnessed. The stories are all identical because they all describe the same event. Mrs. Ortega writes that Eliza came home upset about how unfair it was that Michael got in trouble for something the teacher started. Theo's mom includes direct quotes from her son about Mrs. Whitaker totally lying to save herself. Even Colette's parents, who never get involved in school drama, send a formal statement confirming their daughter's account. By Monday morning, Mom has 9 written statements from different families, all supporting my version. suspension, all contradicting the school's official story. We're going to that school right now, she announces. Principal Sorrell agrees to meet with us before classes start. Mom spreads the printed statements across his desk like evidence in a trial. 9 different families, 9 different children, all telling the exact same story as my son. Principal Sorrell barely glances at the papers. Mrs. Hamilton, I appreciate your diligence, but these are secondhand accounts from children. Secondhand? These kids were eyewitnesses. Children often misunderstand situations or embellish stories when they retell them. I watch him dismiss everything without even reading it. 9 independent confirmations of the truth, and he won't even consider them. Are you suggesting 9 different children all made up the same elaborate lie? I'm suggesting children don't always interpret adult interactions correctly. Mom's voice rises with frustration. They interpreted it correctly enough to all tell identical stories. Mrs. Whitaker is a professional educator. These statements don't change what she reported. The word professional hangs in the air like a shield. It doesn't matter how much evidence we have. Her title makes her untouchable. So you're saying my son's 3-day suspension stands? The suspension stands. Michael disrupted class and needs to face consequences. Mom gathers up the statements with shaking hands. This is absolutely ridiculous. I understand you're upset, but the matter is closed. Closed. Just like that. 9 families providing identical accounts, and the matter is closed because a teacher said something different. As we walk back to the car, the realization hits me like a freight train. This was never about finding the truth. It was always about protecting Mrs. Whitaker and the school's authority. The system doesn't care about justice. It cares about maintaining order and protecting its own people. I can't believe this, Mom says, slamming her car door, but I can believe it. It makes perfect sense now. Schools aren't built to serve students. They're built to protect themselves. Principal Sorrell would rather punish an innocent kid than admit a teacher lied, because admitting Mrs. Whitaker lied would mean admitting the system failed. And the system can never fail. It can only be failed by troublemakers like me. 9 written statements sit worthless in Mom's lap. The truth documented and dismissed. Evidence that means nothing because it challenges authority. What do we do now? Mom asks. Nothing, I say quietly. There's nothing we can do. The institution has spoken. Mrs. Whitaker's lie becomes official truth. My suspension stays on my permanent record, and everyone involved pretends this is how justice works. I understand now why Principal Sorrell never even read those statements. He couldn't afford to find them convincing, because if 9 kids were telling the truth, then the system he represents just destroyed an innocent student to protect a lying teacher. Better to dismiss the evidence than face that reality. The car engine starts, but neither of us moves. We sit in the school parking lot while the truth dies around us. Wednesday morning feels like walking into enemy territory. Word is spread about my suspension. Kids in the hallway whisper and stare as I pass. Some of them know the real story. Others just know I got suspended for being disruptive. The details don't matter to most people. Suspended equals troublemaker in their minds. I walk into Mrs. Whitaker's classroom like nothing happened. She greets me with a bright smile that makes my skin crawl. Welcome back, Michael. I hope you had a good few days off. Days off. Like suspension was some kind of vacation instead of punishment for her lie. I take my seat without responding. 25 classmates who witnessed everything avoid eye contact. They know the truth, but can't help me. The social cost becomes clear immediately. Teachers look at me differently now. Mr. Rodriguez watches me suspiciously during English class. Miss Santos asks if I'm having a better day today in science. My permanent record now includes a suspension for disruptive behavior. Every teacher who sees that file will assume I'm a problem student before they even meet me. During lunch, Theo slides into the seat across from me. Dude, I'm so sorry about what happened. Yeah, well, nothing we can do about it now. It's completely unfair. Everyone knows she lied. Eliza joins us with her tray. My mom was so mad when she found out the principal wouldn't listen to our parents. Sorry doesn't change anything, I say quietly. They both look uncomfortable. Sorry is all they can offer, and we all know it's not enough. Back in Mrs. Whitaker's class, I sit in the back and stop participating. I used to raise my hand for discussions. Used to volunteer for reading assignments. Not anymore. Trust is broken. She can lecture about literature all she wants, but I'll never believe another word she says. Michael, you seem disengaged today, she says during a discussion about character motivation. The irony burns. She's concerned about my engagement after destroying my faith in adults. I'm fine, I lie. Maybe you'd like to share your thoughts on why Atticus Finch stands up for what's right. Every word feels like mockery. She's teaching about moral courage while embodying the opposite. I don't have any thoughts to share. My grades start slipping. Not because I can't do the work, but because I stopped caring about impressing teachers. What's the point? They'll believe whatever serves them best anyway. The suspension stays on my record. College applications will ask about disciplinary actions. Scholarship committees will see that black mark and wonder what kind of student I really am. All because I made a perfect shot that everyone wanted me to make. Other kids offer quiet support when teachers aren't listening. Colette whispers, "We all know what really happened," while passing in the hallway. Desmond gives me sympathetic looks during class. But their support changes nothing. Mrs. Whitaker keeps teaching like she's some kind of moral authority. Principal Sorrell treats me like a reformed troublemaker who learned his lesson. The lie has become official truth. My reputation is permanently stained. And the adults responsible feel no shame about any of it. I learn to keep my head down and my mouth shut. Speaking truth to power only gets you labeled as a problem. Fighting injustice only proves you're disruptive. The system has taught me exactly what it wanted to teach me. Authority is more important than honesty. Order matters more than fairness. And students who challenge the official story get crushed. Mrs. Whitaker assigns homework every Friday now. The bet that started everything becomes a distant memory for most of my classmates. They move on to new dramas and forget about the teacher who lied to save herself. But I can't forget. Every time she stands at the front of that classroom, I see exactly who she really is. The woman who chose self-preservation over truth. The adult who destroyed a kid's credibility without hesitation. The teacher who lectures about integrity while practicing the opposite. Class ends and she smiles at everyone filing out. Have a great weekend, everyone! 25 kids pack up their books and head for the door, ready to enjoy their Friday afternoon freedom. I'm the last one to leave. As I walk past her desk, Mrs. Whitaker doesn't even look up. 2 weeks after my suspension, Mrs. Whitaker announces our next major assignment with obvious excitement. We're going to spend the next month studying heroes and moral courage in literature. The irony irony hits me like a slap across the face. She's going to teach us about integrity while being the perfect example of its absence. You'll each choose a literary character who demonstrates true heroism, she continues, writing on the whiteboard. Not superhero strength, but moral strength. The courage to do what's right even when it's difficult. Eliza catches my eye and raises her eyebrows. Even she can see the twisted humor in this assignment. Some examples might include Atticus Finch, Elizabeth Bennet, or Jean Valjean from Les Miserables. Mrs. Whittaker turns back to face the class with genuine enthusiasm, like she actually believes she's qualified to teach about moral courage. I want you to explore what makes someone truly heroic. What does it mean to have integrity? When does a person choose principle over self-interest? Every word burns. She's defining concepts she completely failed to demonstrate when it mattered. This project will include a research paper and a presentation to the class. I know exactly which character I'm choosing. Jean Valjean, the man who spent decades trying to make up for one moment of weakness. The opposite of someone who chooses self-preservation over truth. At home that night, I dive into Les Miserables with laser focus. Victor Hugo's themes about redemption and moral courage feel personally relevant now. Jean Valjean steals bread to feed his sister's children, gets caught, and spends 19 years in prison. When he finally gets out, he could have kept running from his past. Instead, he chooses to face the consequences of his actions and build a better life. Mrs. Whittaker had one moment of pressure and chose the easy lie. No consequences for her, all the consequences for me. I write my research paper with surgical precision. Every paragraph contrasts Jean Valjean's moral courage with examples of cowardice and self-preservation. I never mention Mrs. Whittaker by name, but every word is aimed directly at her. True integrity means accepting responsibility for your choices, especially when facing authority figures who might punish you for honesty. I also research Ida B. Wells, the journalist who exposed lynching in the American South despite death threats. Another example of someone who chose truth over safety. Wells could have stayed silent to protect herself. Instead, she documented uncomfortable truths that powerful people wanted to ignore. The paper practically writes itself. Moral courage versus cowardice. Truth versus self-preservation. Integrity versus hypocrisy. When I turn it in, Mrs. Whittaker skims the first page and smiles. This looks like excellent work, Michael. I'm glad to see you engaging with the material again. Engaging. If she only knew how personally engaged I am with this particular material. A week later, she hands back my graded paper. A+ written in red ink at the top. Outstanding analysis of moral complexity, her comment reads. You show mature understanding of what true heroism requires. The irony is so thick I can barely breathe. She's praising my understanding of integrity while being the perfect example of its absence. Parent-teacher conferences happen the following week. Mom and I sit across from Mrs. Whittaker in the same classroom where everything started. Michael's work has really improved lately, Mrs. Whittaker says with apparent sincerity. His essay on moral courage was particularly insightful. Mom's jaw tightens, but she keeps her voice level. That's good to hear. I was a bit concerned about his disengagement after the incident a few weeks ago. Incident. She calls her lie an incident like it was some natural disaster nobody could control. But he seems to be finding his academic focus again. Michael's always been focused, Mom says carefully. Sometimes external circumstances affect students' attitudes toward school. Mrs. Whittaker nods sympathetically. Middle school can be challenging. Students sometimes struggle with authority and classroom expectations. I watch her reframe everything to make me the problem. Even now, weeks later, she can't admit what really happened. I think we've moved past any issues, she continues. Michael is doing excellent work. Mom forces a smile. We appreciate your perspective. The meeting ends with handshakes and polite goodbyes. Mrs. Whittaker has no idea that Mom documented her lie with 9 parent statements. No clue that we know exactly who she is. Walking to the parking lot, Mom finally speaks. I wanted to throw those parent statements in her face. It wouldn't matter. She'd just deny everything again. The way she talked about external circumstances and struggling with authority, like you were the problem. I am the problem. I'm the one who knows the truth. Mom stops walking and looks at me. What do you mean? She can't admit what she did because that would mean admitting she's not the person she pretends to be. So I become the troublemaker, the kid with authority issues, the student who needs to find his focus. The pattern becomes crystal clear. This isn't just about one lie. It's about power and how institutions protect themselves. Mrs. Whittaker will keep teaching about integrity while practicing hypocrisy, and everyone will pretend that's normal. Presentation day arrives with nervous energy filling the classroom. Mrs. Whittaker has arranged the desks in a circle so everyone can see each speaker. Who wants to go first? She asks cheerfully. Theo volunteers and gives a solid presentation about Atticus Finch. Eliza follows with Elizabeth Bennet. Standard choices with safe analysis. Michael, you're up next. I walk to the front of the classroom carrying my notes about Jean Valjean. 25 classmates watch expectantly. Mrs. Whittaker settles into her chair with an encouraging smile. My presentation is about true integrity and what it means to take responsibility for your choices. I launch into Jean Valjean's story. The theft, the prison sentence, the years of redemption. Mrs. Whittaker nods approvingly as I explain the plot. But the most important moment in the entire novel happens when Valjean has to decide whether to reveal his identity to save an innocent man. The classroom goes quiet. I can feel Mrs. Whittaker's attention sharpen. Champmathieu gets arrested for a crime Valjean committed years earlier. Valjean could stay silent and let someone else take the punishment. Nobody would ever know. I make eye contact with several classmates. They're starting to understand where this is going. Instead, Valjean chooses to tell the truth, even though it means giving up his comfortable life and facing consequences. Mrs. Whittaker shifts slightly in her chair, but her smile remains fixed. Victor Hugo shows us that real integrity means accepting responsibility for your actions, especially when authority figures are watching. Even when telling the truth hurts you personally. Eliza's eyes widen. Theo tries to hide a grin. Valjean could have chosen self-preservation. He could have let Champmathieu take the blame, but that would have made him a coward instead of a hero. I pause and look directly at Mrs. Whittaker. True moral courage means telling the truth when powerful people expect you to lie. It means protecting innocent people even when it puts you at risk. Mrs. Whittaker's smile falters for just a moment before returning full strength. The novel teaches us that integrity isn't about what you do when everyone's watching. It's about what you do when when you think nobody will find out. My voice grows stronger with each word. Every sentence is a direct challenge to her character. Heroes take responsibility for their choices. Cowards blame others and protect themselves. The difference between them is what they do when authority walks into the room. The classroom is dead silent. Everyone understands the subtext now. Jean Valjean spent his entire life trying to make up for one moment of weakness. He chose truth over comfort, responsibility over self-preservation, integrity over authority. I look around the room at my classmates' faces. They're hanging on every word. That's what separates real heroes from people who just talk about heroism. Actions matter more than words. Choices matter more than speeches. Mrs. Whitaker clears her throat softly, but I continue. The most important lesson in Les Miserables is that you become who you choose to be in moments of pressure, when authority demands an explanation, when telling the truth might cost you something. I close my notes and return to my seat. The silence stretches for several seconds. Mrs. Whitaker stands up slowly, her smile firmly back in place. That was a very insightful analysis, Michael. You clearly understand the complexity of moral choice. She writes A+ in her gradebook with deliberate strokes. Your understanding of character motivation is quite mature for someone your age. The praise feels like acid. She's either completely oblivious to what I just said, or she's pretending not to understand. Who wants to present next? She asks the class like nothing happened. Colette volunteers and starts talking about Scout Finch. Normal classroom energy returns. My moment of truth-telling gets absorbed into the regular flow of academic discussion. But something fundamental has shifted inside me. I've stopped expecting Mrs. Whitaker to admit her lie or show any real remorse. Instead, I've learned to weaponize her own curriculum against her. She wants to teach about integrity? Fine. I'll show her what integrity actually looks like. She can give me all the A's she wants. She can praise my mature understanding. She can pretend my words don't apply to her. But we both know exactly what I said, and we both know exactly why I said it. The truth is now permanently part of the classroom record, hidden in plain sight as academic analysis. She'll never confess to her lie, but I'll never stop speaking truth to power. The final week of the semester arrives with Mrs. Whitaker in full inspirational teacher mode. She's planned what she calls a culminating celebration of everything we've learned about moral courage. Friday afternoon, she stands at the front of our classroom wearing her best professional dress and brightest smile, the same smile she used when she lied to Principal Sorrel 3 months ago. Before we say goodbye for winter break, I want to share some thoughts about the incredible growth I've seen in all of you. She begins pacing back and forth like she's delivering a graduation speech, instead of talking to 7th graders about semester grades. This unit on heroes and integrity has shown me that you understand what really matters in life. Not test scores or homework grades, but character. The word character makes my skin crawl coming from her mouth. You've learned that true heroism isn't about superpowers or fame. It's about ordinary people making extraordinary choices to do what's right. I sit in the back row watching her performance with cold clarity. She's lecturing about extraordinary choices while having made the most ordinary choice possible when faced with pressure. Heroes like Jean Valjean and Ida B. Wells teach us that integrity means standing up for truth even when it's difficult, even when authority figures might punish you for speaking honestly. The irony is so thick it's suffocating. She's describing the exact test she failed spectacularly. Real courage means taking responsibility for your actions instead of blaming others or making excuses. Every word she speaks is a perfect description of what she didn't do. She blamed me instead of taking responsibility. She made excuses instead of telling the truth. I hope you'll remember these lessons long after you leave my classroom. When you're faced with moral choices, I hope you'll choose integrity over convenience. Eliza catches my eye and shakes her head slightly. Even she can't stand listening to this hypocrisy anymore. The characters we studied show us that what you do in moments of pressure reveals who you really are. Not what you say you believe, but how you act when it matters. Mrs. Whitaker pauses dramatically, like she's delivering profound wisdom instead of describing her own failure. Authority figures will test your commitment to truth throughout your lives. Teachers, bosses, politicians, they'll all present situations where lying seems easier than honesty. I almost laugh out loud. She's warning us about authority figures who pressure people to lie while being exactly that kind of authority figure herself. But remember what Victor Hugo taught us through Jean Valjean. Integrity means telling the truth, even when powerful people expect you to lie. Even when honesty might cost you something. The classroom falls completely silent. Everyone understands who she's really describing, even if she doesn't. That's the kind of moral courage I hope to see from each of you as you grow into young adults. She concludes her speech with obvious satisfaction, like she's just delivered life-changing inspiration instead of a masterclass in unconscious self-condemnation. You've all grown so much this semester. I'm proud of the character you've developed. The bell rings, signaling the end of class and the end of the semester. Students pack up their books with the excited energy of upcoming winter break. Michael, could you stay behind for a moment? Mrs. Whitaker asks as everyone files out. I approach her desk cautiously, wondering what she wants to discuss. I wanted to tell you personally how impressed I've been with your work lately, she says with genuine warmth. Your essay on moral courage was absolutely outstanding. Thank you. You have a real gift for understanding complex themes. Your analysis of integrity and responsibility showed remarkable maturity. She has no idea that my understanding comes from watching her demonstrate the opposite of everything she teaches. I hope you'll continue developing that analytical mind in high school. You have the potential to do great things. Mrs. Whitaker reaches into her desk drawer and pulls out a book. I wanted to give you this copy of Les Miserables. It's my personal copy from college, full of notes and insights. She hands me the worn paperback like she's passing down sacred wisdom. I think you'll appreciate Hugo's message even more as you get older. The themes about integrity and moral courage will stay with you for life. I accept the book and flip through pages covered with her handwritten comments about redemption and ethical responsibility. Thank you, Mrs. Whitaker. This is very thoughtful. You've learned what these stories are really about, Michael. Not everyone grasps the deeper meaning. The deeper meaning. She thinks I understand literature when what I really understand is hypocrisy. I hope you have a wonderful winter break, she continues. When you come back next semester, you'll be in Mr. Rodriguez's advanced English class. He's lucky to have such an insightful student. I appreciate everything you've taught me this semester. The words come out automatically, but they're more true than she realizes. She has taught me everything I need to know about integrity by showing me its complete absence. Keep reading, keep thinking, and keep standing up for what you believe in. Mrs. Whitaker extends her hand for a formal handshake, like we're concluding a business meeting. It's been a pleasure having you in class. I shake her hand and look directly into her eyes. For just a moment, I wonder if she sees the knowledge there, if she understands that I know exactly who she is, but her smile never wavers. Either she's completely oblivious to the parallel between her words and her actions, or she's chosen to ignore it completely. Have a great break, Michael. I walk toward the door carrying her gift and her praise. At the threshold, I turn back for one final look. Mrs. Whitaker is already erasing the whiteboard, wiping away the semester's lessons about moral courage and integrity, getting ready for winter break and a fresh start with new students who don't know her secret. Mrs. Whitaker? She turns around expectantly. Thank you for teaching me what integrity really means. You're very welcome. I'm glad the lessons resonated with you. I leave the classroom understanding that she'll never see the irony. She'll never admit what she did or acknowledge how it changed me. But that's okay. The real victory isn't her confession or apology. The real victory is that I've learned to see through the gap between words and actions. She gave me something far more valuable than literary analysis. She taught me that authority figures aren't automatically trustworthy, that institutions protect themselves over individuals, that moral courage is rare precisely because it requires sacrifice. Mrs. Whitaker will keep teaching about heroes while being the perfect example of their opposite. She'll inspire future students to stand up for truth while having failed that exact test herself. And I'll remember this lesson for the rest of my life. Not because of what she taught me about Jean Valjean, but because of what she taught me about herself. The showdown isn't dramatic or loud. It's the quiet recognition that I see through her completely, and she has no idea. That's enough. Winter break passes in a blur of normal teenager stuff. Video games, sleeping late, hanging out with friends who've already moved on from 7th grade drama. But I can't move on. Every time someone mentions Mrs. Whitaker or asks about English class, the betrayal comes flooding back. Theo talks about how cool she was before that whole thing happened. Eliza mentions missing her funny comments about homework. Even Desmond says he learned a lot in her class. They remember the teacher who made learning fun. I remember the adult who chose self-preservation over truth. The difference is permanent. They experienced a semester of engaging literature discussions. I experienced a complete loss of faith in authority figures. Going back to school in January feels different. I walk through hallways with new eyes, understanding that every adult here is part of the same system that protected Mrs. Whitaker's lie. Mr. Rodriguez welcomes me to advanced English with enthusiasm about my excellent analytical skills. He has no idea those skills came from analyzing real-world hypocrisy instead of fictional characters. Mrs. Whitaker spoke very highly of your work, he tells me during our first class. Of course she did. In her version of events, I'm the student who overcame behavioral problems and found academic success. The troublemaker who learned to respect authority and focus on learning. She gets to be the inspiring teacher who helped a difficult student. I get to be the redemption story that proves her methods work. The official narrative erases everything that actually happened. The bet, the lie, the cover-up, none of it exists in the school's records. Just a suspension for disruptive behavior and a teacher who showed patience with a struggling student. Other teachers treat me like a success story now. The kid who learned his lesson and got back on track. They don't know they're congratulating me for accepting injustice quietly. Mrs. Whitaker waves when we pass in the hallway, always friendly and encouraging. Like we share some special bond from overcoming challenges together. I wave back politely, maintaining the fiction that everything worked out fine. But inside, I've changed permanently. Teachers aren't automatically protectors or truth tellers. Principals aren't guardians of fairness. Schools aren't institutions of justice. They're systems designed to preserve themselves, and individual students are expendable when protecting authority becomes necessary. That's the real lesson from 7th grade English. Not about literary themes or character development, but about how power works in the real world. Mrs. Whitaker is still teaching about integrity and moral courage, still inspiring students to stand up for truth and take responsibility for their actions. And I'm the only one who knows she failed every test she teaches others to pass. The resolution isn't external. No apologies, no admissions, no justice. The resolution is internal. The clear-eyed understanding of exactly who she is and what she represents. I know the truth about Mrs. Whitaker. I know the truth about the system that protected her. And I know those truths will guide every interaction I have with authority for the rest of my life. That knowledge is both a burden and a gift. 20 years later, I still remember that Friday afternoon with perfect clarity. The excitement in the classroom. Mrs. Whitaker's offer. My perfect shot arcing through the air. Principal Sorrell's entrance at the worst possible moment. But mostly I remember the choice Mrs. Whitaker made in that instant of pressure. The split-second decision that revealed who she really was beneath all her lectures about moral courage. That crumpled paper ball became a symbol of lost innocence. The moment I learned that adults lie to protect themselves and institutions cover for their own. The lesson guides me still. In job interviews, I watch for gaps between stated values and actual behavior. In relationships, I judge actions over words. In politics, I assume self-interest until proven otherwise. Mrs. Whitaker taught me the most valuable lesson of my education. Not through literature or classroom discussions, but through her own spectacular failure of character. She wanted to inspire us with stories of heroes who chose truth over convenience. Instead, she became the perfect example of someone who chose convenience over truth. I never thanked her for that lesson, but I've used it every day since. Sometimes the best teachers are the ones who show you exactly what not to become. Adults in positions of authority will lie to protect themselves. That institutional systems are designed to protect those in power, rather than seek truth or justice. And that integrity is revealed through actions under pressure, not through words in comfortable circumstances. Walking out of Roosevelt Middle School on that final day of the semester, I carry with me a hard-earned and permanent understanding of how power works, how easily it can be abused, and how rare true moral courage actually is when personal interests are at stake. Mrs. Whitaker tried to teach us about moral courage and personal integrity through books, essays, and classroom discussions. Instead, she taught me about moral cowardice and institutional dishonesty through her own actions when faced with a simple choice between truth and self-preservation. The lesson was more valuable than anything in her official curriculum, though infinitely more painful and disillusioning than any literary analysis or writing assignment. Years later, I still remember every detail of that Friday afternoon when I made a perfect shot and lost all respect for a teacher who couldn't honor a bet she made with genuine enthusiasm and apparent sincerity. It was the day I learned that a person's true character is revealed not by what they say they believe, but by what they do when their stated principles conflict with their personal interests and immediate welfare. Mrs. Whitaker failed that test completely and deliberately, and in doing so, she gave me the most valuable education of my life about the difference between claimed values and actual behavior when facing real consequences. She taught me to never trust someone's words over their actions, and to always remember that integrity means doing the right thing, especially when nobody would know if you chose otherwise. That lesson has served me well in recognizing and avoiding people who, like Mrs. Whitaker, will sacrifice others to protect themselves when facing pressure, inconvenience, or potential consequences for their own choices and actions. The paper ball that started everything might have been just a piece of crumpled notebook paper, but it revealed something far more important and lasting, the true character of an adult I thought I could trust and respect. And that revelation, painful and disillusioning as it was at the time, prepared me better for understanding the real world than any official lesson plan or educational curriculum ever could have accomplished.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop your favorite part in the comments. See you in the next one.